Unmute now. Still lagging? Still lagging? No, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, no? Right. Okay. So next topic, right? Theories of evolution, na? Okay. So how many theories of evolution do we have under your syllabus? We have three. Theory of Lamarck, Darwin-Wallace theory, or the natural selection, let's say the one we sort of widely accepted one, and the final one, Neo-Darwinism, right? So those three, as the name says, as the topic says, are theories. Theories kila tibbada, because why? You might see, especially the first one, theory of Lamarck, is something we have disproven, right? We don't agree to it, right? Because evidence we have found out the theory of Lamarck can't be possibly true. But it's a theory, no? Anyone can come up with a theory, right? So what are the two things that can happen to a theory? It can be proven or disproven, no? They can right? But the theory is still a theory. But the flat earth theory right? It can be disproven, but the theory is still there. It's idea, right? So for a time, any theory for a certain time, it's accepted. කවුරු හරි ඇවිල්ලා ඒක disprove කරනකම් a theory is the truth. නේද? Right? So that's why, I mean, the modern evidence clearly shows a lot of evidence for the theory of natural selection and then the neo-Darwinism. ඒකෙම adaptation එකක් neo-Darwinism, right? But if someone comes up with something very, very radical that is going to completely destroy natural selection, it's still possible, right? Maybe with the development of molecular biology and maybe space exploration, ඔය මොකක් හරි එකකින් වෙන alien race එකක් හම්බෙලා එහෙම මොකක් හරි මේ ඔක්කොම තනිකර අපි ඔක්කොම අපි රැවටිලා ඉන්නේ කියලා වගේ මොකක් හරි එහෙම theory එකක් ආවොත් වගේ anything can be disproved, but it's the most widely accepted and the evidence backing theory, no? Right? So they are theories, right? That word is okay. Then what is evolution? There's a nice definition here that you need to nicely remember, right? What is a nice definition? Change in genetic composition of a population. Highlight the word population. Population, na? Change in genetic composition of a population from generation to generation, descent with modification over a long period of time, right? Underline this. I have told you to sort of follow one way of highlighting or underlining definitions. හැම වෙලාවෙම definitions වලට එක color එකක් හරි එක underlining මොකක් හරි style එකක් දිගටම use කරනවා. Right? All definitions should be highlighted in the same way. දැන් ඉඳලා හරි පටන්. Right? Decide on a color, හරි uncommon color එකක් හරි මොකක් හරි. Right? If you are underlining whatever, all definitions should be එකපාරටම ඇහැට පේන්න ඕනේ, right? Definitions should be definitions. Okay? So what are the keywords? What are the keywords? Always, right? If you come across a definition, what do you have to pay attention to? Keywords. What are the keywords? Yes, genetic composition, no? Right? අපි පොඩ්ඩක් එක නිකන් අර විචාර කරමු, right? O level වලට ලියුවා නේද විචාර, right? What do you mean by genetic composition? Right? It has to be a change in the genetic composition. Evolution is not evolution if there is no change in the genetics, right? Always in evolution there is change in whatever the genes that are passed to the next generation. So genes are composed of what? On earth all genes are composed of DNA, no? DNA තමයි අපේ the only genetic material except for viruses වල RNA තියෙන පුළුවන්, what viruses are not living, නේද? Right, everyone has DNA, right? Evolution is always associated with change in genetic composition. Okay, very very important. Then ඊළඟ වචනේ මොකක්ද අපි විචාරය කරන්න ඕනේ? Population. A single organism doesn't evolve, right? A single organism you can't say අන්න මෙයා evolve වෙනවා. No. It's always has to be a population, right? The entire human population as a whole ගන්නත් පුළුවන්. එහෙම නැත්නම්, right? In a particular country, in a particular community, right? මොකක් හරි ethnicity එක, race එක, right? It always has to be a population of organisms undergoing evolution. Not a single organism cannot evolve, right? Population එකක් තමයි with generation to generation evolve, right? That's the next one. Then another generation to generation, right? It doesn't happen within your lifetime. You are not evolving within your lifetime, right? ඒක generationally වෙන දෙයක්, right? Over thousands of years. Okay, but you know the rate of evolution has accelerated, no? With everything in the modern times, the human population is evolving at a faster rate. Because why? Because of we have found ways of let's say අපේ DNA එක tamper කරන්න පුළුවන් ගොඩක් ක්‍රම තියෙනවා නේද, right? We can sort of stem cell therapies we have found out, right? Radical treatments for cancers and even antibiotics that we use sometimes can alter our DNA very fast, all right? So our human population evolution rate එක ගොඩක් වැඩි වෙලා, but usually it's a process that occurs over many generations. Okay, then finally over a long period of time, right? You cannot miss any of those keywords. Okay, all right. This may take millions of years. Okay, all right. So without anything, let's come to the first theory of Lamarck, right? He has two principles. 1809, well, right? 1809 he has published, right? So use and disuse. Let's read what is use and disuse. Parts of the body that are used extensively become larger and stronger. If not used, they deteriorate. Use and disuse. All right. So what is the example? Giraffe stretching its neck to reach leaves on higher branches. Right. අපි වෙන example එක use and disuse. Resistance training, no? Gym එකට යනවා නම් what are you doing? You are extensively using your skeletal muscles by increasing the demand, right? Anyone who's training to get bigger muscles, what are they doing? Every day they are trying to lift more and more weight. Either squats or bench press or whatever you are doing, හැමදාම වැඩිපුර weight එකක් නේ ගහන්න හදන්නේ, right? That's the goal. Why is that? Because when you increase the stress on the skeletal muscle, right? නිකන් දැන් ඊයේ ඉස්සුවේ කිලෝ 5යි අද කිලෝ 6ක් උස්සන්න try කරනවා, right? The skeletal muscle is experiencing stress. That means what? You are using that skeletal muscle. So with time what's going to happen? Something called hypertrophy, right? That means the muscles are going to get bigger, and also small increase in the muscle number as well, muscle cell number. Because why? You are using it. You are using the muscle extensively. So what's going to happen? It's going to become bigger. Parts of the body that are used extensively become larger and stronger. Best example is your skeletal muscles. If you use them very frequently and very stressfully, they become larger and stronger. Other side, other spectrum, there's a person who's paralyzed from neck down. Right? Person who's paralyzed from neck down, quadriplegic. Right? Have you seen their muscles? We call them what? Atrophy. Atrophied muscles. Hyper wasted muscles. Small. Right? Muscle only නිකන් ඇටකටු විතරයි තියෙන්නේ, right? Bones විතරයි පේන තියෙන්නේ. Muscle mass is very very low. Because why? They are not using the muscles. නේද? Someone who's bedridden ICU එකේ මාස දෙක තුනක් හිටියොත් you can see muscle mass is going to go down because why? They are not using it. Okay, so that is good, no? The use and disuse, that principle is, it's not, again, වැරදි නෑනේ, it's not false. Got it? So we can say Lamarckගේ use and disuse part is acceptable, it's not false. No, right? Come to the next one, second principle, inheritance of acquired characteristics. Read it. Organisms acquire characteristics during their lifetime as adaptations at environment and pass those characteristics to the next generation. Long muscular neck of giraffe had evolved over many generations as giraffes stretched their necks even higher. Giraffe kata පොඩ්ඩක් අමතක කරමු, right? What's the part? Acquire characteristics during their lifetime as adaptation and pass those characters to the next generation. Now, ඔය passing කැලලත් අමතක කරන්න. Acquire adaptations during their lifetime. What do you think of that? Can an organism acquire certain adaptation during lifetime? Yes, right? If you, then අපි ඉන්නේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ocean, like sea level එකේ නේද, about maybe few hundred feet above sea level නේ අපි ඉන්නේ නේ, maybe 500 feet above sea level නේ අපි. Imagine you move to the Himalayas, පදිංචිය මාරු කරනවා, right? Himalaya, right? Nepal වලට ගිහිල්ලා පදිංචිය මාරු. For the first, let's say, few months you are going to suffer because why? මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ? With the increase in elevation මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ? Geography වලට ඉගෙන ගත්ත නේද? Cold එක වැඩි වෙනවා, oxygen content එක අඩු වෙනවා නේද? Oxygen content goes down. So for a few months even you are going to feel the effects. Oxygen මදි කියන එක දෙනවා, light headed, ඔළුව කැක්කුම් වෙනවා, weak, right? Have you ලංකාවේ එහෙම experience කරන තැනක් නැහැ නේ. එච්චර උස elevation එකක් oxygen අඩුයි දැන එක තැනක් නැහැ, right? But if you go to somewhere that far, that high, you're going to experience oxygen madi කියන එක. But maybe after a year living in the Himalayas, you're going to adapt. Your body is going to produce more hemoglobin. So more hemoglobin means තියෙන oxygen චුට්ට your body will start to, I mean, adapt to deliver it to the cells. If you take a full blood count of a person in a mountainous area එක, they are going to have more hemoglobin than you. Because why? They are adapting to the environment. Got it? So adaptations, yes, during their lifetime they can acquire adaptations. ඒක ඇල්ලත් ඕකේ නේද? මේ ලැමාර්ක්ට වැරදිච්ච තැන මොකද්ද? Pass those characters to the next generation. Why is it wrong? මේ දෙවෙනි කැලල වැරදියි. Pass those characters to the next generation. Why is that part wrong? Just because you move to the Himalayas and your hemoglobin increased, is it going to change your DNA? No. Right? Because why? Because of the low oxygen, your body was adapted, right? Your bone marrow started to produce more hemoglobin. But did it change your DNA? No. Within your lifetime, your DNA will not be changed. But if you take a person, ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ පරම්පරා දැන් එන කාලෙක ඉඳලා ඒගොල්ලෝ ඉන්නේ කන්දේනා, right? ඔය කවුද නේපෝල් වල ඉන්න කවුද? Sherpas, right? ඔය natives ලා ඉන්නවනේ, right? They have the feature of having high hemoglobin over their generations, right? From their fathers and mothers, they got the high hemoglobin. Because why? From their fathers, they got it. Because over many generations, their DNA has changed, right? But even just because you moved to Himalayas and you had children there, ඔයගොල්ලන් බබාලට හම්බ වෙනවා the ability එක, no? They are going to be having low hemoglobin and then ටික ටික ඒගොල්ලන්ගෙත් වැඩි වෙයි, right? So you acquire adaptations, yes, but you cannot pass them to the next generation. Because why? Your DNA is not changed. Just because your father is a bodybuilder doesn't mean your children are going to get the good genetics of having muscle, right? හරි මෙහෙමයි සමහර if you are a bodybuilder but if you build those muscles just by doing exercise, right? නිකන් අර සාමාන්‍ය දැන් ඔය ඩ්වේන් ජොන්සන්ගේ වගේ තාත්තත් රෙස්ලර් කෙනෙක් නේ, right? ඒ වගේ පරම්පරාවෙන් එන ජෙනටික්ස් තියෙන අය ඉන්නේ, right? But if you take someone whose father was very skinny and not unathletic, and someone who built their muscles by just going to the gym, එයාගේ ළමයාට ඒ muscles එනවා. Because why? That genetics is not there. He went to the gym and he ate protein and built muscles. ඒ මයිකල් ඒ muscles ටික ළමයාට එන්නේ. Because it's not in their genes. Right? ඔන්න ඔතන තමයි ළමාක්ට වැරදුනේ. He said those adaptations will pass to the next gen. That's wrong. Okay, that's the incorrect part. So yeah, I have given you in the tute, right, after geological eons and eras, podi timeline එකක් දීලා තියෙනවා, right, in the same page. Online people, I have given you a small timeline. Can you see? Right, 1809, can you see in that timeline Lamarck publishes his hypothesis of evolution? පේනවද timeline එකේ in the tute? Yes. එතකොට ඒ නිකන් ඒ year එකේ මොකක්ද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? Charles Darwin was born, no? එතකොට මම නිකන් අර මම ඉපදින්නේම move disprove කරන්න වගේ නේද? ඒ අවුරුද්දෙම එකෙක් ඉපදෙනවා අර theory එක disprove කරන්න, right? Okay, so Charles Darwin was born, and can you see 1831 Darwin travels around the world on the HMS Beagle. ඒක තමයි HMS Beagle කියන්නේ ඩාවින්ගේ නැව, right? ඒකෙන් he traveled everywhere, and sort of that's how he observed living organisms and sort of started to gather information for his theory නේද? Galapagos Islands වල තමයි යා mainly studies කරලා තියෙන්නේ, right? HMS Beagle එකනේ අර දොස්තර හොඳ හිතා වගේ නේද? නැවක නැගලා, right? Okay, so Darwin publishes his theory 1844, all right, and 1858 වල can you see Wallace, right? So we say it's what Darwin ge theory විතරක් නෙමෙයි, Darwin Wallace theory, no? So Darwin published a theory called descent with modification, and Wallace published something called natural selection, hypothesis on natural selection. So දෙන්නම එකතු වෙලා තමයි the origin of species කියන combined theory එක publish කරේ, right? Okay, so that's the timeline of those theories of evolution. Okay, so then I'll explain what is this giraffe story එක, right? So what do they say? Use and disuse එකේ what are they saying? Giraffes stretch their necks during their lifetime, right? Giraffe la they stretch their necks. Why do giraffes have to stretch their necks? ඇයි මේ giraffe ලට ඔයගලගේ neck එක stretch කරන්න ඕන? Imagine there's a population of giraffes. දැන් මට අඳින්න වෙනවා, right? Right, there's a population of giraffes, right? එක එක ජාතියේ neck length තියෙන giraffe ලා ඉන්නවා, right? මෙහෙම තව පොඩි එකෙක් විතර, right? There are giraffes with different neck lengths. මෙයාගේ neck එක චූටි, right? It's a giraffe, huh? Right? Then there are trees of different heights, no? There are trees of different heights with leaves at different levels. Neither, right? So this shorter giraffe can only eat what? Shorter giraffe කන්න පුළුවන් maximum එයාගේ neck length එකේ තියෙන leaves ටික නේද? But the taller giraffe has access to the higher leaves as well, right? So the taller giraffe has more options, no? උට යට තියෙන ඒවා කන්නත් පුළුවන්, උඩ තියෙන ඒවා කන්නත් පුළුවන්, right? The shorter giraffe has less options, නේද? Shorter giraffe has less options. right? අපි මේ කතා කරන්නේ දැන් ඉන්න වගේ ඔක්කොම බෙල්ල දිග ජිරාෆ්ලා නෙවෙයි. like ancestor of giraffe. giraffe ගේ ancestor, right? So the shorter giraffe saw that මේ ලොකු එකාට ඔක්කොම කන්න හම්බ වෙනවා, right? He has the possibility of eating every leaf. උසේවත් පුළුවන්, කොටේවත් පුළුවන්. So what did he try to do? He stretches his neck. බෙල්ල දික් කරනවා මුළු ජීවිත කාලේ, right? Because one thing he has to survive. උස තැන් වල ඒවා කාලා අන්තිමට යටකොළ ඉවුණා මුඩ ඒවා කන්නේ, right? So he has to stretch his neck every day just to survive. So Lamarck said maybe this giraffe, short giraffe, at least a few millimeters or centimeters or even his neck length increased during his life. Because why? He's always stretching it. Bella dik karana හැම වෙලාවෙම. All right. It's not a very good example, right? Can you understand? There are better examples. But Lamarck ගත්තේ ඕක giraffe කතා, right? So then what's the next? Second thing is he says inheritance of acquired characteristics. මේ කොට giraffe ගේ ළමයින්ට අර extra millimeters or centimeters of neck length would be inherited. බබාලටත් ඒක දෙනවා. ඒතකොට බබාලත් මොකද කරන්නේ? They are also stretching their neck. They also elongate their neck a little bit. ඊට පස්සේ එයාගොල්ලන්ගේ ළමයින්ගේ චුට්ටක් දික් වෙනවා. ඔහොම චුට්ට දික් වෙලා we have come to the modern giraffe with about අඩි 5ක් දිගයි නේ බෙල්, right? That sort of neck. That is how Lamarck explained giraffes got long neck, right? Got it? Giraffes stretch their necks during their lifetime and that will be passed to the next generation. Okay. ඒක එහෙම තියාගන්න. අපි දැන් ළමක්ට මුත් කියන්න යන්නේ, right? We'll go to the Wallace theory and see what is so good about it. Okay. So Darwin-Wallace theory has two parts. I'll erase this. Online people, any issues? Is it laggy still? Online people, give me a feedback. Is it lagging? No? Yeah. Anyone who's having connection issues, maybe because of connection, I mean, right? Okay, damages in the, I'll send you the recording, right? Okay. Right. So Darwin-Wallace theory, we have two things. Darwin-Wallace theory, he had two observations. මොකද දකින්න එපා ඔය බීගල් එකේ නැගලා when he was traveling he saw two things. He saw many things but summarized into two things. What are his two observations? Population of a species vary in characteristics among their inheritance traits. So they get එකත් අපි විචාරය කරනවා, right? Logically try to get a meaning, right? මේක කටපාඩම් කරන්න වෙනවා but it's easier to කටපාඩම් if you know what it means. Population of a species. A species means what? It's a one type of organism. Human species, right? A species of dog, German Shepherd, golden retriever, and a species, right? If you take a species and a population of a species, what can you see? They have what? Variation in characteristics. Tell me a characteristic that we can see variation in this room. Skin color. Right? Skin color is a characteristic. Okay. So ඒක characteristic එකක් නම් මොකක්ද මේ අනිත් එක කියන්නේ? Inheritance traits. මේක දැන් අද මම 2026 අයට we are revising this genetics වල. So if you say skin tone is a characteristic now, what are the different traits? මොනවද මේ traits කියලා කියන්නේ? Different variations of this character. right? දැන් human population එකේ skin tone එක ගත්තොත් there's a massive spectrum. පට්ට කළු අයගේ ඉඳලා පට්ට සුදු අය වෙනකන් ඉන්නවා. right? එහෙම albinism එහෙම ගන්න නෙවෙයි, right? There are sort of Caucasian people are very white and African people are very dark, right? That's a trait. තව මොනවද characteristic එක කියන්නේ? Tell me a characteristic in the human population. Online people, tell me a characteristic in the human population. hair type එක. මොනවද? straight hair, curly hair. What else? ඔය දෙක විතර. wavy කියලාත් තියෙනවානේ. those are what? එතකොට characteristic is what? hair type. Traits are what? Curly, straight or wavy. Eye color is a characteristic. What are the traits? Brown, black, grey, blue. Those are traits. Right? IQ එක නෑ height එක දීලා තියෙනවානේ. height is again it's a massive spectrum no ඉතින් skin tone එක අපි නිකන් මෙහෙම කියන්න බෑනේ මේ right ලෝකේ උසම් මිනිස්සයාගේ ඉඳලා කොටම් මිනිස්සයා වෙනකන් there's a massive range but it's still a character right තව එකක් තියෙනවා මේ දාලා තියෙනවා yes ability to roll tongue මෙහෙම ගන්න පුළුවන් anyone who can do it පුළුවන් no it's either you can do it or you can't right එතකොට character එක මොකද්ද ability to roll your tongue traits are what you can or can't got it ඕවා තමයි the variations so what did Darwin see population within a species of a population there are variation in the characteristics මොනවාද තව characteristics strength එක physical strength එක weak සත්තු ඉන්නවා very strong අය ඉන්නවා within the same population so that's the first observation second one each species produces more offspring than their environment could accommodate now every species tries to do reproduction පුළුවන් තරම් reproduce කරන්න තමයි try කරන්නේ because why that's the normal coding right not because it's enjoyable right more than the environment could accommodate right offspring that's the sort of the coding no කන්න ඕනේ reproduce කරන්න ඕනේ දෙකනේ කරන්නේ survive වෙන්න ඕනේ we have to reproduce those two things offspring more than the environment could accommodate I have given you an example tute එකේ උඩ තියනවා නේද overproduction of offspring කියලා තියෙනවානේ උඩ අර timeline එක ගාව yes can you see a fungus එකක් පුෆ් ගාලා those are releasing what we call as spores or spores වලින් many other fungi will be produced overproduction alright එතකොට මේ වටේ තියෙන මුළු area එකම full carpet එකක් වගේ it will be covered by fungi overproduction ඔය දෙක තමයි දැක්කේ ඩාවින් නා he observed those two okay next one yeah ඊට යටින් තියෙන එකත් බං variation නා මොනවා මොකද lady birds ලා they vary in their color and the spot pattern natural selection may act on these if they are heritable and affect the ability to survive and reproduce අපි එතෙන්ට you can see the variation right ඔය එක එක beetles එකේ there are many dot එක දෙක තියන අය ඉන්නවා dots ගොඩක් තියන අය ඉන්නවා can you see right right then Darwin මේ දෙක නිකන් observe කරලා නිකන් හිටියේ නෑ he came up with two interpretations right I'll erase this okay so for these two observations he got two meanings interpretation එක කියන්නේ තේරුමක් meaning එක what are the two meanings they came up with what are the two meanings he came up with observations and interpretations what is his first interpretation read certain traits of a population which are capable of exhibiting qualities for better survival and their reproduction produce more offspring. Podi English වල අවුලක් තියෙනවා එතන. Right? Right? Certain traits of a population are capable of exhibiting qualities for better survival. එතන විච් කැලලක් ඕනේ නේද? ඔයගොල්ලෝ කැමති නැහැ කපා. Right? And their reproduction can produce more. Right? There are certain traits better for survival. Right? සමහර traits තියෙන අය can survive. Okay? Because of their survival, they can reproduce. Okay? What are the good traits that can help you survive? Human population against strength is a survival, good for survival, no? If you're strong, you can survive. But if you go to the animal kingdom, strength is very, very important, no? Right? Strength එක තියෙන කෙනෙක්ට they can survive. Weak, what's going to happen to the weak? Going to die. මැරුණොත් පුළුවන් ද reproduce කරන්න? No. You have to be alive to reproduce. And mostly in the animal world, if you are weak, you will not find a mate, no? නිකන් ඔය lion pack එකක් වගේ ගත්තොත් ඔක්කොම right ඔක්කොම lioness ලා වට කරන් ඉන්නේ strong මෙක් කෙනාව. Right? That's because why? He has the good traits. One of the strength, speed, maybe intelligence also ඔක්කොම තියෙනවා. So if you have good traits, you will survive. That means you get the chance to reproduce more. First interpretation. What's the second one? Variation in ability for survival and reproduction among a population may enhance the abundance of favorable characteristics in that generation. එතකොට හොඳ traits තියෙන එක නම් ළමයි හදන්නේ ඒ ළමයින්ට හොඳ trait එක එනවා. If the strongest person is reproducing, those children will inherit those good characters. Therefore, what is going to happen? The abundance of those favorable characteristics increase. And then the entire population becomes strong. Got it? Because why? The weak people can't reproduce. Only the strong is reproducing. So the next generations are becoming stronger. Maybe. So it is going to increase abundance of favorable or no, okay. Those are the interpretations. Okay. So then what can you what is your summary of this? මොකක්ද මේකෙන් ඔලුවට ආපු idea එක? There is a, if you take a population of a certain species, all of them are different. There are weak ones and strong ones. Basically එහෙම කියමු. Strong අය ඉන්නවා, weak අය ඉන්නවා. Right? So that is variation. That's the first observation. ඊළඟට any species produce more offspring than the environment would accommodate. Making මොකක්ද වෙන problem එක? What's the problem with this producing more offspring than the environment? නිකන් මේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ ක්ලාස් එන්නේ ඒක හින්දා. What is it? Competition, no? Competition. If you take your A-level exam, it's a competitive exam. Ne? Why? Right? Because there's limited space. Right? ලංකාවේ දැන් A-level ලියනවා කීයද? ලක්ෂ how many? සාමාන්‍යයෙන් science stream එකෙන් about 45,000 people are writing, no? Right? So I think university, let's say medicine, I think bio people, there's about 15,000 bio ඉන්නවනේ. 15,000 ඉද? එතනින් medicine ගන්න කීයද? 2,000. Right? More offspring than the environment could accommodate. තේරුණා නේද? environment එක නම් university එක A level ළමයි ඉන්නවා ඊට වඩා වෙන කොටක්. So there's a competition. Right? හැමෝම ගන්න බෑ. If you take the environment, limited resources, limited water, food, light, ඔක්කොම limited. but species are producing more than the environment could accommodate. So there's going to be a competition, right? This competition එකේදී who's going to win? If you take A level exam, who's going to win? Maybe IQ වැඩි එක්කෙනා or the hard working one. ඔය දෙක නෙති, right? A level competition එකේ who's going to win? Good traits, either hard working ability, IQ, focusing ability, right? IQ එක තිබ්බට මදි if you can't hard work තිබ්බට මදි පොඩ්ඩක් brain එක පොඩ්ඩක් develop වෙලත් නැත්, right? It all has to be balanced. Whatever good traits will survive. Reproduction කියන එක දාන්න බෑ A level වලට, right? If you take a population, right? The strong will win the competition. The strong will win the competition and they will survive and they will reproduce and their next generation will be strong. Got it? ඔක තමයි කතාව. ඊළඟ මේ generation එක මොකද වෙන්නේ? හරිද? දැන් මෙතනින් මේක ඉවරද? So strong people got the chance to reproduce and produce a stronger one. එතන ඉවරද evolution? No. In this stronger population also there are weaker ones. The ඔක්කොමලා strong නේ. Right? It's always ඔක්කොමලා එක විදිහට strength නේ. Strong අය අතරේ relatively weak අය ඉන්නවා. Relatively යා. ඒතකොට එතනත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? The strongest will again reproduce. So after generation after generation after generation after generation, populations are going to get stronger, stronger, stronger. That is evolution. Right? That is the beauty of evolution. Right? You are going to get stronger and stronger. Strength, the word I'm using strong can physical strength, right? There are a few favorable characteristics list එකක් තියෙනවා. Highlight those. Escaping from predators, tolerating physical conditions, obtaining food, resistance against disease, fertilizing probability, number of offspring produced. Can you see? Organisms who are strong in all those aspects are going to survive and they are going to reproduce. If you take the human population, අපිට වටින්නේ මොනවද මෙතන? What are the best traits for us? Probably in this day and age, මොනවද? Resistance against disease, no? Right? Resistance against disease may be the best surviving feature. Do you know what's the biggest risk for the human survival that is upcoming? What is it? හරි දැන් මේ වගේ පොඩි පොඩි natural disasters එනවා, but that affects only a country, no? As a whole world, what's going to affect? Any idea? Any idea what's going to be the most dangerous thing? ඉඩත් නැහැ, right? Antibiotic resistance. අහලා තියෙනවද? What are antibiotics? Antibiotic resistance. කවුද මේ resistant antibiotics වල? අපි කාටද antibiotic, who are we using antibiotics against? Microorganisms, usually bacteria. Right? Antibiotics resistant. So bacteria becoming resistant. Why? They are evolving. They are evolving. Right? So there are certain antibiotics that can punch holes. Bacteria වලට මොකද වටේට තියෙන cell wall එකක් තියෙනවානේ. Because of the cell wall, our immune cells can't usually break down bacteria. Cell wall එක. If you take an antibiotic, that antibiotic can drill holes in the cell wall. Right? Through those holes, maybe water can go in, or they become more vulnerable to white blood cells. Right? That's why we take antibiotics. Right? But with time, some bacteria has evolved traits that can maybe break down these antibiotics. Right? They are resistant because why? They are evolving. So their next generation is stronger than the previous. Right? So penicillin, have you heard? Right? Penicillin is almost and universally resistant now. Then the bad. Right? If you go to the hospital with after a road traffic accident, පාරේ වැටලා හොඳට ඉන්ෆෙක්ට් වෙච්ච තුවාලයක් තියෙනවා, පස්සුයි තාර ඔක්කොම ගිහිල්ලා, right? They are going to give you what? දැන් නම් දෙන්නේ මොනවද? Augmentin දෙනවානේ. Augmentin මොනවද දෙන්නේ? It's called coamoxiclav, right? Amoxicillin and ඒක නිකන් මේ resistance එකට fight කරන්න හදපු new antibiotic, right? It's a new one. But I saw there's a patient in Indian ICU, right? There's a whole list of antibiotics. අපි කරනවා සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඕනම patient කෙනෙක්ගේ අපි හිතනවා නම් there's a bacterial infection, we say what we call as ABST එකක්. Antibiotic sensitivity testing. Okay? Blood sample එකක් හරි urine sample එකක් හරි we send to the lab and they are going to do a culture එකක් කරලා ඒකට we are going to microbiology people are going to put antibiotics දාලා බලනවා මොනවාද respond කරන්නේ, right? I'll send you that article, right? In India there's a patient in ICU or something, ඔක්කොම මේ antibiotics resistant, right? There's nothing sensitive for the bacteria. Staphylococcus aureus එකක් හැදලා තියෙනවා pneumonia එක මුක් දෙන්න බෑ. The bacteria is resistant every antibiotic, right? So imagine ඔයගලන්ට සැම හැනවනේ පපු lung infections එනවනේ නිකන් කපවාට සැමෙන infection සමහරවිට බෙහෙත් බොන්නෙත් නෑ, right? Sometimes augmentin එකක් හරි amoxicillin හරි බිව්වම you're going to get better, not in the future, right? නිකන් මේ ඉන්න ගමන් small bacterium එක ගිහිල්ලා your lung infection ඒක pneumonia වලට ගිහිල්ලා right? Urine path එකකින් පොඩි bacteria එකක් ගිහිල්ලා urinary tract infection එකක් කියලා you die. Because why? Doctors can't give anything. Even if you are going get admitted to the ICU, you are going to die, right? All because of what? Natural selection. Natural selection of the bacteria and their evolution is happening because of what? Apin. Why? Because we are using antibiotics excessively. Monotora antibiotics use karna. Whenever we don't need an antibiotic, we take antibiotics. Pharmacists la තමයි ගොඩක්ම මේකට වැරදිනේ. නිකන් අර ගෙදර යන ගමන් පොඩ්ඩක් sore throat එකක් වගේ තියෙනවා නම් පොඩ්ඩක් සෙම වගේ නම් ඉතින් pharmacy antibiotic එක අරන් යන්න පුළුවන්. And sometimes even general practitioners ගෙදර ළඟ ඉන්න doctors අපි කියන්නේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඔය අම්මලෙම කියන්නේ doctor එකපාර බෙහෙත් දුන්නාම හරියනවා කියලා. ඒ මොකද එකපාර හරියන්නේ. එකපාරටම ඩෝන් ගාලා antibiotic එකක් දීලා නේද? What should a doctor probably do if you are going with a cough හරි runny nose වගේ හරි යනවා නම් what should the doctor do? මුලින්ම immunity එක වැඩ කරනවද බලන්න ඕන, right? They have to පොඩ්ඩක් runny nose එකට පොඩි ඒ runny nose ගතිය අඩු වෙන්න හරි allergy ගතිය අඩු වෙන්න you give something symptomatic නිකන් අර ඇඟේ අමාරු අඩු වෙලා immunity එකෙන්ම you have to check if it the immune system takes care of it. නැත්තම් තමයි antibiotic එකක් දෙන්න ඕනේ. මූ මැරෙන්න යනවා වගේ නේ, right? But අර මොකද්ද popularity එකට මොකද කරන්නේ? කෙලිම තියෙන ලොකුම antibiotic එක prescribe කරලා දෙනවා. Take it කියලා. ඒ වෙලාවේ හයි but that bacteria some will survive, that remaining few will reproduce and don't gala next infection එකේදී හැදෙනවා resistant එක, right? Because why? You used antibiotics excessively. When the bacteria is exposed again and again and again to the same antibiotic, it's going to evolve, right? So that's evolution in real life, huh? Okay, right. Final thing in the resource, come back to the resource, huh? Come back to resource. So highlight those favorable characteristics, huh? Process of natural selection: overproduction, variation, competition, natural selection. High steps ටික, right? When there is overproduction, there is a competition. Sorry, overproduction, these two are like going together. මුලින්ම ආවේ කවුද කියලා කියන්න බෑ, right? There is variation and there is overproduction, right? Because of the overproduction, there is competition. Because of competition, there is going to be survival of the strongest, huh? Highlight those things. Okay, come to the tute. theories of evolution there's a topic ne theories of evolution කියලා තියෙනවා නේ topic එක. Anyone who's not online people who's not having the tute, I'll send you the PDF for now. The delivery will happen soon. Nah? That depends on the day you enroll to the website. So do you need me to send it to the group as well? Okay. Theories of evolution. Let's write a small note. Huh? Let's write a small note. Write down. Lian, manage your space. Huh? Found the place. Tute के place එක හොයාගත්ත නේද? I don't have a tute. Here. මේක පොඩ්ඩක් edit එකේදී පොඩි අවුලක් වෙලා. Right? Start from the top. Huh? Theories of evolution. Write down the definition of evolution. What is the definition? What is evolution? Change in genetic composition. Clear? Change in genetic composition of a population from generation to generation, descent with modification over a long period of time. Okay. Then first theory, theory of lemma. Subtopic, theory of lemma. Theory of lemma. Underneath that, number one, theory of lemma, right? Use and disuse. Use and disuse. In front of it, right? Still acceptable today. Still acceptable today. Still acceptable today. Use and disuse. Next one, inheritance of acquired characteristics. Underneath theory of lemma, inheritance of acquired characteristics. Underneath that, write down organisms acquire adaptations. Organisms acquire adaptations during their lifetime. Organisms acquire adaptations during their lifetime. It is acceptable, right? organisms acquire adaptations during their lifetime, that is acceptable, no? Right? Remember the example. ඔගොල්ලෝ නේපාල් වලට ගියොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ කියලා. Right? Acceptable. Then next part of inheritance of acquired characteristics is what? Pass those characters to the next generation. Write down underneath it. Pass those characters to the next generation. Pass those characters to the next generation. In front of it, right? Possible only if there is a change in, possible only if there is a change in genetic composition. Possible only if there is a change in genetic composition. Possible only if there's a change in genetic composition. So that's our interpretation, no? Lamarck use and disuse. Okay. Second one, inheritance of acquired characteristics. Bhagayak okay. First part, they acquire adaptations. Yes, acceptable. Do they pass them? Only if they are in the genetics. Genetic composition එකට effect උනොත් විතරයි. Lamarck දැන හිටියේ නෑ anything about genetics because who came later? Mendel, right? Father of modern genetics. එයා තමයි කිව්වේ මෙන්න මේ මොකක් හරි ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ අම්මගේ තාත්තගේ ඉඳලා there are some package that is coming to you. Right? එයා දැනන් හිටියෙත් නෑ DNA ගැන because Rosalind Franklin ලා Boston and Crick ලා ඊට පස්සේ right? They didn't know about DNA. Right? Can you understand? ඒගොල්ලෝ එක එක even though they had gaps in their knowledge, they had the memory. I mean, they had the, let's say, sort of deep thinking to think that අර මම දන්නේ නැති දෙයක් තියෙනවා, but it should be because of this, right? Mendel didn't know about DNA, but he thought මොකක් හරි විදියකට තාත්තගෙන් ඉඳලා he's passing you some information. He didn't know how. He didn't know about DNA. He didn't know about the nucleus in a cell, right? He just knew that from parents to children, these characters are coming. Because why? He did experiments and he thought about it. Concepts, theories, then experiments, hypothesis, science. Right. So that is theory of Lamarck. Okay, online people, I send the tube to the group. Anyone who didn't get the tube delivered yet? Okay. Available in the chat. Okay, I'll leave. Next topic, Darwin-Wallace theory. ඉතින් තියෙනවා last page එකේ තියෙනවනේ space. Try to manage there. ඔය තියෙන්නේ topic එක උඩින් ලියන්න. Darwin-Wallace theory. Topic, Darwin's observations. Darwin's observations. Darwin's observations. මොනවද Darwin observe කරේ? Population of a species vary in characteristics. Population of a species vary in characteristics. Population of a species vary in characteristics. Population of a species vary in characteristics among their inheritance traits. Vary in characteristics among their inheritance traits. yes resource එකේ තියෙන එකම තමයි. Because you need to know it by word. Exactly දැනගන්න ඕනේ. Each species produce more spring than the environment could accommodate. Part 2. Each species produce more spring than the environment could accommodate. All right. So those are the two observations. No. අරකක් ගහන්න යටට below produce more spring කියන එකට යටින් arrow එකක් දාන්න. This leads to යටට arrow එකක් දාලා ලියන්න. This leads to competition. This leads to competition. This leads to competition. Right? මේ විදිහට this leads to competition for this leads to competition for this leads to competition for basic requirements. What are the basic requirements? Food, water, reproduction is a competition. Yes, even in the human population, no? Right? What else? If you take the humans, we need shelter. If you take a plant, sunlight. Oh, come a competition, no? Right? Have you seen in a forest? කැලයක් ගත්තොත් have you seen there are so many layers in a forest, right? There are short trees like this and there are tall ones, right? මේ උස යන අය මොකද කරන්නේ? They are going to create a layer. So යට ඉන්න අය they are in the shade, right? If you take a forest, we call this the canopy, right? Canopy එකෙන් මේගොල්ලන්ට sunlight එන එක නවත්තනවා යට ඉන්න අය. Because so what's going to happen? All are competing, no? They are competing for sunlight, right? උස යන්න හදනවා යට ඉන්න අයත් එක්ක. Right? So overproduction leads to competition. Competition is our basic requirements. Reproduction, so food, water, energy, sunlight, shelter, ඔය වගේ එක එක basic requirements තියෙනවා. Right. Darwin's interpretations. Next subtopic. Darwin's interpretations. Darwin's interpretations. You can say interpretations of Darwin. No? Lian, refer your resource and write. එක හරි ගස්සලා ලියන්න, but without missing words. Certain traits of a population are capable of exhibiting qualities for better survival. Certain traits of a population are capable of exhibiting qualities for better survival. And their reproduction produce more offspring. And their reproduction produce more offspring. Next, variation in ability for survival and reproduction. Variation in ability for survival and reproduction within a population enhance the abundance of favorable characteristics. Variation in abilities for survival and reproduction within a population enhance the abundance of favorable characteristics. Abundance of favorable characteristics. Okay, this is what? Survival of the fittest. නේද? Fittest survive වෙවි යනවා. This fitness, I keep saying again, strength එක නෙවෙයිනේ. ඔය පල්ලෙහා තියෙන. It could be any of those. Fertilizing probability වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. There can be a very strong lion or someone who's infertile, right? එතකොට එයාගේ survival එකෙන් reproduction එකක් වෙනවද? No. That's again something not, I mean it's not, then he's not the fittest නේ. එයා නෙවෙයි fittest එක්කෙනා. Right? Infertile නම් fit නෑ, right? So එතන ඉඳලා එයාගෙන් reproduction එකක් නෑ. So his negative traits will be removed, right? Okay, so that's what's going to happen. And on the other side, අපි මේ අනිත් පැත්ත කතා කරේ නෑ. So the fittest people get to reproduce. What's going to happen to the weak ones? Weak reproduce කරන්න හම්බෙන්නේ නෑ. ඒතකොට ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ තියෙන weak characters are going to die with them, right? The weak characteristics are going to be erased. That's why we say natural selection is it's evil, no? Right? The weak will not survive, and even they won't get the chance to have children, right? But that's not happening in the human population, no? Human population again, there's a bit of backward evolution. Why is that? The, let's say, the healthy people and the strong people and maybe the more intelligent people are not having children, eh? ඒ විෂය එකක් තියෙනවානේ. Doctors, engineers, and even scientists, are they having children? No, they don't have time. But if you take poverty, like not say like below average people, එක පවුලේ පහක් හයක් ඉන්නවානේ, right? Then that is going to be a problem in the near future. Because I'm not saying all those children, but so many of them are going to be a burden, no? Society එකට burden එකක් වෙනවානේ. Because why? They are in a toxic cycle එකනේ. ඒගොල්ලෝ poverty හින්දා they are going to go into illegal things, and right? So it's a cycle, no? But smart people and maybe even the rich people are not having children, right? Right? Because busy and maybe other things. So that's going to be a big problem in the future, right? The average IQ of the population will maybe coming down, right? So maybe we'll go into our society එක collapse වෙලා ආපහු ඒකේ ඉන්න හොඳ මෙවුන් ටික ඉතුරු වෙලා ආපහු අර නිකන් ෆිල්ම් එක වගේ ආපහු නිකන් the human population may start, right? We don't know, right? The society may collapse and what. Okay, right. Final part of theories of evolution, na? Neo-Darwinism, right? Neo-Darwinism. What do you mean by neo? Neo කියන වචනේ තේරුම මොකක්ද? එහෙම. අපි කියනවා neonatal කියලා. දැන් ඉපදිච්ච අලුත්ම බබෙක්ට කියනවා neonatal කියලා. Newborn. Neo means new. New, right? New Darwinism. Neo-Darwinism. So I just told you Darwin ගේ theory එකෙන් missing මොනවාද? What did Darwin think happens, but he didn't know how it happens? මොකද්ද? මේ traits කොහොමද මෙතෙන්ට ආවේ කියන එකනේ. strong එකා කියලා කොහොමද එයාගේ ළමයාට ආවේ කොහොමද? ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. He saw that. He saw that the children are strong, but how did they get it? He didn't. That knowledge came with what? Genetics. So by now we know everything. we know Darwin theory දන්නවා, Mendel ගේ theory දන්නවා, ඊළඟට Mendel පස්සේ other genetic theories, so everything we know. So what have we done? We have modified, we have added things to the Darwin's natural theory, evolution. So we have got new Darwinism. Let's read it. It denotes the integration of Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection and Mendelian genetics. Highlight. Integration of Darwin's theory of natural selection and Mendelian genetics. How do Mendel? Gregor Mendel. Genetics. Lesson number 6. In another 1 year, you will be learning about Gregor Mendel genetics. Right? So that's how we got neo-Darwinism. The equation, you can write it down as an equation. All right. Right. Write down the topic neo-Darwinism. Subtopic neo-Darwinism. Right. Neo-Darwinism equals natural selection plus Mendelian genetics. Natural selection by Darwin right down. Neo-Darwinism natural selection by Darwin plus Mendelian genetics. Neo-Darwinism. There's an MCQ in the tute. Which of the following statements is most important in explaining the Darwin-Wallace theory? Online people, can you see? One minute. So the following statements is most important in explaining Darwin-Wallace theory. Only one answer. Alright, people, send me the answer. Forgot the MCQ. Alright, send me the answer. Okay, I got an answer. What about others? Yes. What's the answer? 4. Backrows. Yeah. 4. Let's see. One, organisms acquire suitable adaptations according to the needs of the environment during their lifetime. Are those so? අපි අහන්නේ මොනවද? Explaining, no? Right? So is it wrong? It's not wrong, ne? Right? Can you see? ඒක වැරදි කතාවක් නෙවෙයි නේ. They do acquire adaptations during their lifetime. But what are they asking? Most important in explaining, right? එතකොට මේක bit of a logical thing, no? කෙලින්ම theory එකම දැනගෙන හිටියොත් බෑ. Right? Let's go to the second one. Adaptations acquired during the lifetime are passed to the next generation. Definitely wrong. What is the condition? If you want adaptations to be passed to the next generation, in front of it you can write. What is the condition? Only if genetics were changed, right? Genetics change වුණොත් විතරයි යන්නේ ඊළඟ generation, right? නැත්නම් තාත්තා බොඩි බිල්ඩර් කියලා පුතත් බොඩි බිල්ඩර් වෙන්නේ නැහැ, right? තාත්තගේ ජීන්ස් වල තියෙන්න ඕන. තාත්තගේ ජීන්ස් වල තිබ්බොත් පුතා ජිම් ගියේ නැතත් he has a lot of muscle mass. ජීන්ස් වල තිබ්බොත්, right? Third one, favorable characters are passed to the offspring through genetic factors. Okay, yes. හැබැයි I mean it's true, no? True. හැබැයි did Darwin know about genetics? No. Darwin didn't know about genetics. නේද? So it's a okay statement. It's a true statement. හැබැයි Darwin Wallace theory එකට set නෑ නේ. Maybe neo-Darwinism okay. Got it? Each species produce more offspring than the environment can accommodate. That is one of the observations, no? Directly one of the things Darwin had said, right? If you're coming back to the first one, that is actually part of Lamarck. First statement, it's a bit acquire adaptations according to the needs of environment. That's something said by Lamarck, no? Right? Not exactly Darwin, right? So now can you see? That's why we say fourth one is best, no? Fifth equilibrium, adaptations result in changes in genetic material, not entire, right? Adaptations, if you, I mean, it's not always true, no? Right? Over many generations, it can cause genetic material changes, but it doesn't say that, no? So the best answer is what? Each species produce more offspring than the environment could accommodate. Okay? Right. Okay. Essay book, right? Essay writing book. New students, essay writing වලට වෙනම book එකක් ගන්න. That's the only writing book you require. අනිත් ඔක්කොම ටියුට් එක ලියන්න පුළුවන්. essays ලියන්න වෙනම book එකක් ගන්න CR එකක්. Right? Short note, homework. Short note. Homework, short note. Theory of natural selection. Theory of natural selection. We'll mark it next week. Theory of natural selection. So I'll say what are the things I expect. You need to write Darwin Wallace theory and what are the favorable characters and the process of natural selection. Right? That is theory of natural selection. Okay. I remember me Darwin's observations and interpretations I was studying just before going to the A level exam because ඒ වෙලාවේ තමයි අර you need to know the exact කටපාඩමෙන් දැනගන්න ඕනේ. ඒ වෙලාවේ තමයි අපිට සිට මේක මතක නැහැ නිකන් අර පැනික් එකේ මට හොඳට මතකයි ඕක පාඩම් කරනවා ඒ වෙලාවේ. Right, there's it's useless. Right, it's better to look at something අර මොන හරි vitamins ටිකක් වගේ බලන් ගියා නම් it's you more important. But I remember I was reading this, right, because it's very that much commonly questioned in the structured essay paper. And also for an MCQ, you need to know the exact wording. You know, in that MCQ, they have just if you can't exactly remember the Lamarck and Wallace clearly, you might be confused between 1 and 4. Ne? Right. Here we go. All right. Let's take an early break and we can start classification. Classification of organisms. Okay. Classification of organisms. දැන් අපි අර big picture කතන්දර ඉවරයි. Right. We are going to break down. Right. මුලින්ම නිකන් මේක හැදිච්ච ඉඳලා යුනිවර්ස් එක හැදිච්ච පොයින්ට් එකේ ඉඳලා අපි මෙතන right. So now we have done with evolution. So we now have our current diversity. Eh? So now we are going to classify whatever species that we have right now and see what are the diversities that we can observe. Right? 15 minutes. Online people. Any questions here online people? People, can you hear? You can hear now? Okay. Can you hear me? Hello? Right. So, I'll give out the papers. Huh? You go home and go through your papers, and particularly the essay paper. So I have sent you the marking scheme. Ne? PDF එක හම්බුණානේ? Right. So I tried to be. I mean, I mark most of the essays myself. මම mark කරේ essays ගොඩක් ඒවා. So I tried to give a lot of marks, as well as I tried to sort of not give marks as well, right? If you had mentioned the point or the keyword anywhere, I usually gave, right? But keywords මුකුත්ම නැතුව just the general idea එක නම් තියෙන්නේ, I didn't give, right? Even if your sentences were wrong, and but the keyword එක කොහේ හරි තියෙනවා නම් දුන්නා, right? That might or might not happen in the A levels, right? Keyword එක කොහේ හරි තිබ්බොත් ලකුණු දෙන එක marking scheme එක tough නම් might not happen, right? So because it's your first one, I didn't go that strict, but නිකන් general idea එක වගේ දීලා තිබ්බොත් I didn't give marks because you have to have a keyword, right? Next week we'll go through the essay marking scheme and your essay writing answers also. ගෙදර ගිහිල්ලා you just do a small self evaluation. Structured essay was good, right? Because I think we have done structured essays and also I mean structured essay marks were actually good. MCQs, it's also I mean not bad, right? So I with the time you had sometimes you might have sort of forgotten the small points and the MCQ paper was a bit heavy on the earlier parts, not much about on metabolism, right? So maybe that was a small issue. So I think only 12 people were there for the physical paper, no? Online people, so your PDFs will be marked and sent to you within today, and the top scorers will be sent to the group, right? Top 3 scorers will be sent to the group, but I couldn't finalize that because uh, the assistant was not there, so I couldn't finalize your exact final marks. So within today, online people, your marks, your marked PDF papers will be sent back to you, right? The PDF itself mark kala tiyenne, it will be sent back to you with the top scorers, right? So physically, yeah, right. So I'll write the 3 people with the top scores on the board. Online people, can you hear? You can hear, right? Okay. So third highest, Anushka Jayasingh, right? Anushka, right? Vihar Madhavi. Right. So that's the third highest. Okay. Second highest, Kamidu Nirmal, Anand. Right. So in the physical class, top scorer, Chamatkar Ashmind, Anand. Right. Oh. In a paper, right. Come. Well done. Huh? Right. Cody prize එකක් තියෙනවා for the first place, huh? Okay. Well done. Huh? Right. So particularly if you are friends with these people, go through their essays. There are people who has written good essays. Okay. Um, but particularly pay attention to their essays, because MCQs you can study, right? It's a matter of studying. But essays, as I always say again and again, podi technique එකක් තියෙනවා, you have to master, right? සිතිල සන්දේශ් දෙවිනි මහානා දිනන්දි who's දිනන්දි අවදාරිකා දුල්හා විදාරා නෙතුලි. You are not Dinandi? Not the other one. Okay. Netum Dulni. Not bad. Oshani M. Pereira. Kaumadi. Not here. Kaumadi Gotami. All right. Dimandi Hevavasam. Okay. These two absent, no? Okay. Online people. The top three will be I'll give within today. Okay. With then all of your answers will be sent to you personally. Marked answers. Okay. So go home, right? Forget about it for now. Go home and go through the marking scheme, essay marking scheme, and see why you have missed, right? Why you have missed certain points. Ara mehemai. Don't make this mistake at the paper as well. Just because you have written pages and pages and pages doesn't mean it contains points, right? So you might come home with a lot of confidence, thinking you have written a nice answer. You might have written a nice answer, but it won't have the points, right? ලස්සනට දිගට දිගට ලියලා තිබ්බට it might be missing, right? So develop the skill of writing to the point, and you have to have like first try. If you are willing, I mean, after you have done the exam, once you come home, you should have the proper confidence. හොඳ sure එකක් තියෙනවා නිකන්. නැත්තම් if you are overconfident about your answer and don't prepare for maybe another attempt or something, ඒක ප්‍රශ්නයක්, right? So always develop your essay writing skill, because it's 30 marks, 30 marks out of 50 for essays. Well, so you cannot neglect it. And while you are studying for essays, you develop your MCQ and SCQ, right? That's what I always say. Essays පුළුවන් නම් MCQ SCQ පුළුවන්, right? MCQ පුළුවන් විතරක් කෙනෙක්ට ගොඩක් විට SCQ essay බෑ. හැබැයි essay පුළුවන් කෙනෙක්ට අනිත් දෙකම පුළුවන්. Got it? That's the deal. Okay? So all right. We'll discuss if you have any doubts, මොනාරි issues තියෙනවා you can ask me. Any doubts about the paper and everything? Okay? Okay. Right? All right. Page number 77. Resource book, page number 77. Hierarchy of taxa on a scientific basis. Methods of artificial and natural classification. Definition: arrangement of organisms into groups on the basis of common characteristics is called classification. Okay, what are the keywords? Groups, right? Arrangement into groups. Groups is a keyword. And common characteristics. Common characteristics. That is the definition of classification. Then there's another definition, taxonomy. Taxonomy is the scientific study of classification, identification, nomenclature, and description. එක entire biology වල subdiscipline එක. Taxonomy, right? Taxonomists ලා ඉන්නවා, right? So they are the people who are involved in classifying, identifying, giving names. Nomenclature කියලා කියන්නේ giving names and describing, right? So they maintain catalogs, databases on all the species, right? They identify, they give names, they classify, and they describe, right? So that's taxonomy highlight. Classification, we can classify organisms in two ways. Okay, so as you know, I mean, we there are so many ways we can classify, but we can compress all the different types of classificating, I mean, into these two main, let's say, types, right? So classification is of two types. As artificial and natural. Okay, so talking about artificial classification, grouping is based on a few pre-selected unifying characters. Okay, pre-selected unifying characters. Then how are these characters chosen? They are selected according to convenience. Lazy right? When we need to classify according to our ease of classification. Again, අපිට ඕන විදිහට lazy classify කරන්න, we use something coming under artificial classification. Right? Evolutionary relationships are ignored. Right? Usually the complex evolutionary relationships, we can see evolutionary relationships at a DNA level, at an ecosystem level. There are so many levels. Those are going to be ignored in artificial classification. Maybe because it's difficult, right? Either because evolution relationships are not known, or because it's difficult. Either of those two reasons, whatever, evolutionary relationships are ignored in artificial classification. The only system used before 18th century, right? Theories of evolution in the Kaling, the system we use for classification is artificial. Easy to use, easy to expand by adding more groups, right? So there are some examples. Plants can be cereals, ornamental plants, medicinal plants, poisonous. Animals can be 2-leg, 4-leg, 6-leg, 8-leg, right? Nothing scientific, just anyone, Montessori this can do this type of classification, right? So that is artificial classification. What are the things coming under it? According to convenience. According to convenience. Then evolutionary relationships are ignored. What else? Before 18th century, before theories of evolution. What else? Easy to expand. Expand right? Easy to expand. Yes. Those are few of the characteristics of artificial classification, right? Okay. Coming to natural classification, that's the scientific way of classifying. That's what we are going to learn about. Okay. So what are the things about it? Grouping is based on true relationships. Okay. Represents evolutionary relationships based on phylogeny. What is phylogeny? Definition is given in front. evolutionary history of a species or group of species. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ evolutionary history එක. එයාගේ ancestor කවුද? ancestor කවුද? එහෙම ඒ ancestor ආවේ කාගෙන්ද? Right? That is phylogeny. Right? Phylogeny. Highlight the phylogeny and in front evolutionary history of a species or a group species. That is phylogeny. System developed after study of evolution based on many characteristics. Characteristics can be morphological, anatomical, cytological, molecular, biological. Okay, what is morphological? Appearance, external appearance. Anatomical, structure. So anatomy can be what? External anatomy and internal anatomy, right? Structure. Cytological, cell, based on the characteristic of the cell. What are the basic things you know? Eukaryotic, prokaryotic වෙන්න පුළුවන්, right? එතන ඉඳලා eukaryotic නම් photosynthetic ඒ වගේ, right? You can at the cell level you can classify. Molecular, biological, based on DNA and RNA sequences. How many chromosomes do they have, right? Associated with histones, the homoma, DNA, RNA level එකනොත් you can classify. So natural classification, evolutionary relationships are considered. Developed after study of evolution. What else? Method you can say phylogeny, based on phylogeny. Yeah? These are important words. They can ask you. Characters such as what? Morphological, anatomical, cytological, or molecular biological. What are the characteristics? Cytology. What is cytology? Study of cells. Huh? What's the other one? Molecular biological. Yeah. All right. So this is the sort of summary between natural and artificial classification. Come to the tute. Jump to the tute. Classification of organisms. You can see the topic, no? There's a question. Distinguish between natural and artificial classification. Lianaba. I'll give you the answer. What is natural classification? Right in front. Manage your space product. Medically unknown. Based on evolutionary relationships. Based on evolutionary relationships. Developed after study of evolution. Developed after study of evolution. Based on characteristics such as morphology, anatomy, cytology, molecular biology. What's the characteristics? Did you write down? Liver, okay. Then next question, artificial. Artificial classification, what do you have to write? Characters are chosen, characters are selected for convenience. Characters are selected for convenience. Yeah, molecular biology balanne anne amaruයි, right? Okay. Characters are chosen for convenience, or you can say selected for convenience. Evolutionary relationships are ignored. Evolutionary relationships are ignored. Evolutionary relationships are ignored. Only system used before 18th century. දැනුත් use වෙනවා. හැබැයි before 18th century ඒක විතරයි තියෙන්නේ. That's the idea you had. Only system used before 18th century. We still use it now, no, right? නිකන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ අර මොකක් හරි exhibition එකකට ගියොත් නිකන් ඔය මල් පැලද වගේ තියෙන එකකට තියෙනවානේ classify ornamental plants, fruit plants එහෙම classify කරලා තියෙනවා. Is it according to species එහෙමද? නෑ. Right? That's for ease of, I mean, for the ease of classification. We use artificial classification even this day. But before 18th century, it was the only one. Then finally, easy to use and easy to expand. Artificial classification is easy to use and easy to expand. Okay, right. We are coming to another bit of history lesson. Right, ඉතිහාසය වගේම නම් ටිකක් පාඩම් ගන්න තියෙන්නේ. Right, අර සෙල්ලිපි පාඩම් කරා මතකයිනේ grade 10 history වලට. Right, ඒ වගේ some names to be remembered. Okay, page number 77, highlight, and we'll do, I mean, we'll write a small summary also. Let's read history of classification. Aristotle was the first to classify organisms scientifically. Highlight Aristotle. Nama highlight kan Aristotle. Aristotle started Lyceum, right? එයා ගෙනේ Lyceum. Aristotle ගෙනේ original Lyceum. මේ ආකාරය නෙවෙයි original Lyceum එක. නේද? Online people, anyone who's from Lyceum? Not Mohanlal Gregg, right? Okay. Yeah. He divided organisms into plants and animals. Highlight when a color raking. He divided animals into plants and animals. Then animals were further classified according to mode of locomotion, reproduction, presence or absence of red blood cells. So what did he do? Aristotle මොනවද කරේ? This is okay, right? Let's make a small short note for this. නැත්නම් ඔක මතකෙ ඉන්නේ නැනේ මලක්. So for 2026 people, we are starting the paper classes. Anyone who's having cousins or අයියලා අක්කලා 2026 වල we are starting paper class, okay? Paper only class. So right, Aristotle නේ වැඩේ පටන් ගත්තේ. Aristotle, what did he do? Plants, animals. Animals he classified based on what? Locomotion, I got a purple pen, so I can lean, right? Right? Locomotion, reproduction. Online people, can you see this? What is right? With time, it will become wider. Reproduction and red blood cells. Red blood cells, present or absent. ඔය ටික තමයි Aristotle කරේ. Right? But it was a bit scientific, no? Shape එකේ scientific. කපල බැලුවාම රතු පාටයි නම් red blood cells තියෙනවා අකෝ. Right? That's the basis. But it's a bit scientific still, no? නිකන් reproduction, what sort of reproduction වගේ. He did a little bit of a scientific classification. So that was done by Aristotle. He was the first to classify. That's the important thing. මොකෙක් හරි පටන් ගන්න ඉබේ. Right? Plants and animals. So animals were divided. Aristotle's pupil Theophrastus. Theophrastus. මෙයාගේ ගෝලයා එයා මොනවද කරේ? Animals according to animals are plants. Classified plants according to habit as trees, shrubs, and herbs, and according to lifespan as biennials and perennials. Right? So yeah, මේව ගියා plants. He classified according to habit. Habit can habitat or like sort of where they grow. Right? Based on habit, trees. මේව අහනවා, okay? MCQs වල අහනවා, right? Trees, shrubs, and herbs. No? Then what is the other one? Lifespan. Lifespan එක විදියට මොනවද? Annuals. What is an annual? අවුරුද්දයි ජීවත් වෙන්නේ. Biennials. ඇත්තට මේ annual කිව්වට අවුරුද්දක් නෙවෙයි, only one season, one growing season. Right? They grow in the spring and summer එකෙත් කොහොම grow වෙලා winter එක වෙනකොට මැරලා. One sort of cycle. එක cycle එකයි. One cycle per year. That's එතනින් ගොල්ලන්ගේ ඉවරයි. නිකන් if you take a crop like paddy, only one growing season, no? එතනින් යාට we cut it, but their lifespan is also short. So that's an annual. Then biennials, they survive for maybe 2 seasons. I think wheat you can grow through the winter, right? Perennials means they can grow through multiple seasons. Any big tree, right? Big trees, big shrubs, multiple growing seasons. perennials. They can survive through the winter, summer, spring, again winter, summer, spring, multiple seasons they can grow. Theophrastus. Huh? Then we come to the big man, right? One of the most significant people, Carolus Linnaeus. Huh? He's the father of modern taxonomy, right? Linnaeus. Very, very important, significant person. Okay. Let's read page number 78. Up to the time of Linnaeus, scientists have used many different methods for naming organisms. Carolus Linnaeus, a Swedish botanist, introduced binomial nomenclature and classified about 6,000 plants into hierarchy of order of taxa, such as species, genus, order, and class. His classification was of flowering plants or based on the number of stamens and styles of flower. He identified two kingdom of organisms as plants and animals. Right? Father of taxonomy කියලා කියනවා. Right? අපි මෙයාට යන්න කලින් before we go on to this Carolus Linnaeus, I'll just tell you what is the modern hierarchy. මොකක්ද hierarchy එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ? It's a level of organization from the highest to lowest, right? So when we are classifying organisms, the biggest, let's say, the group is the one that is containing the most number of species. From the most number of species to the level of species, there's a level going down. The president කියන්නේ මුළු ලංකාවේම ලොක්කා, right? Prime minister ඉන්නවා ඊළඟට speaker of the parliament එකේ ලොක්කා. ඊළඟට governors ඉන්නවා එක එක province වලට. එයා province එකේ ලොක්කා. ඊළඟට provincial councils ඉන්නවා ඒ වගේ ඒකේ ලොක්කා. එහෙම there's a hierarchy of power. No? It's like that. There's a hierarchy of classification starting from the top level that is called the domain. The modern one, right? You will see how different people introduced domain. Then we have kingdom, phylum. Then it's class, ne? Class, order. Yeah. Class, order, family. Right? Genus. අන්තිමට තමයි species. Species එක යටත් ඉන්න පුළුවන් subspecies කියලා එකක්. Right? This is the completed hierarchy, modern one. Na? Modern one. Okay? We'll see how different people make a complete carbohydrate. Right? So this is the full one. So Carolus Linnaeus actually started this whole process. So what did he do? He classified, he introduced two kingdoms. One are the kingdoms? Animals and plants scale. Okay, two kingdoms. Then what did he do? What are the hierarchies that he has introduced? He introduced species, genus, order, class. මේ ටික introduce කරේ Carolus Linnaeus, right? So he classified into plants and animals. Then also he introduced what? These hierarchy. මොනවාද? Introduced. I'll write it in a different color. Carolus Linnaeus introduced class, order, no? Yes, order, class, genus, and species. Carolus Linnaeus. Then what else did he do? Introduce binomial nomenclature. නම් දෙන proper method එක. The proper scientific way of giving names, that is called binomial nomenclature, we learn about this, was introduced by Carolus Linnaeus. Okay. What else did he do? යාගේ flowering plants classify කරා කියලා කියනවානේ. So plants වල flowering plants වල how did we classify? Number of stamens and styles. Those are the things done by Carolus Linnaeus, and also classified about 6,000 plants, right? 6,000 plants, right? ඔයගොල්ලන් කියන්න බලද්දි මීට කලින් කවුරුත් කළා නැති ඉතින් ඔක්කොම ටික එයාට අයිති වෙනවා කියලා, right? No, he had a lot of things to work with, no? ඔයගොල්ලෝට ඒ idea එක ආපු ගාම I'm going to give names to everything, right? Because he's the first one to do it. It's not that difficult, right? දැන් නම් අලුත් species එකක් හොයාගන්නවා කියලා කියන්නේ නිකන් මාර ලොකු දෙයක්. එකපාරටම 6000ක් හොයාගත්තා, right? Because no one had done it before, right? He was the first to do it, so he had all the freedom, right? නිකන් පාර යන බල්ලෙක් I have found a species, no? Right? වත්තට ගියා ඔක්කොටම නම් දුන්නා. Because no one had done it before, right? ඔක්කොම පැලවලට නම් දීගෙන යනවා. Carolus Linnaeus. Okay? He's a Swedish botanist. 6,000 plants, introduced species, genus, class, order, classified plants, flowering plants according to stamens and styles. Right? Clear about Carolus Linnaeus. Right. Moving on, next paragraph. With the discovery of microorganisms, scientists understood that there were organisms which could not be assigned to either plants and animals. The mechanikal plants and animals. Aristotle Ingelam, we have plants and animals. But now with microscopes, we have seen that there are very small organisms. Right? So next comes Ernest Haeckel. What did he do? Ernest. These people have so many vowels. Haeckel. Ernest Haeckel. What did he do? He introduced third kingdom, right? Kingdom Protista. Ernest Haeckel introduced kingdom Protista. Also introduced what? Introduced the taxon what? Phylum. Phylum කියන taxon එක was introduced by Ernest Haeckel, right? So ටික ටික complete වෙනවා, no? We have, what do we have? Genus, species, class, order, phylum තියෙනවා. නේ? We are slowly completing the full hierarchy. Ernest Haeckel. Next, with the discovery of electron microscope, biologists identify prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell organization. Right? Electron microscope එකෙන් දැක්ක nucleus එකේ prokaryotic eukaryote හොඳටමනේ SS ලියලා තියෙන්නේ. Right? With the electron microscopes, they saw that there are proper nuclei and inorganized nucleus. Right? එතකොට මොකද උනේ? Protista was not enough. You can't put everyone in Protista. අර නිකන් ඔක්කොම කුණු බේරයවට වගේ classify කරන්න දන්නේ නැති ඔක්කොම Protista එකට දාන්න. Right? So it was not proper. Then who came? Robert H. Whittaker. Robert H. Whittaker. Robert Whittaker. What did he do? He introduced a 5-kingdom classification. So then kiyak තියෙනවද? Kingdom plants, kingdom animals, kingdom Protista. He introduced 2 more. Okay, 5 kingdoms. What do you have now? Kingdom level complete. 5 kingdoms. What are the 5 kingdoms? Yes, Monera කියලා එකක් introduce කරා. Yeah. අතින් දැම්ම එකක්. Monera fungi. Fungi නේද? Yes. ඊළඟට තිබ්බ තුන. Protista, plants, animals. 5 kingdom classification who? Robert H. Whittaker. And also you have to know his classification was based on, very very important, his classification was based on 3 things: cellular organization, online people, I'll send a photo. Cellular organization. So cellular organization means what? Eukaryotic or prokaryotic. Then what? Whether unicellular or multicellular. Finally what? Mode of nutrition. He classified everything based on these things. Cellular organization is, I told you, whether eukaryotic or prokaryotic. Online people, I'll send a photo. Unicellular or multicellular. What are the criteria used by Robert H. Whittaker for his classification? Right. After Whittaker, who came? Next paragraph. With the acceptance of Darwin's theory of evolution and the unitary origin of life. What is unitary origin of life? මොකද මේ unitary කියන්නේ? අපි ඔක්කොම එක්කෙනෙක්ගෙන් ආවේ කියන්නේ. One common ancestor. නේද? මතකයිනේ protocells හැදුනනේ. So ඒ protocell එකකින් අපි ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා, right? So unitary origin. Taxonomies began to use natural systems with interpreting evolution relationships. With the recent advancement of molecular biology and the use of molecular methods in studying evolutionary relationships, it became apparent that in the very early evolution, some prokaryotes differ as much from each other as they do from eukaryotes. So, අපි කොතනද දැක්කේ that there are nucleus level differences after electron microscope, no? Who saw that? Whittaker. That's why he introduced Monera and fungi in addition to the protists to put these other organisms. Right? So ඔක්කොම prokaryotes ලා එකකට දාලා හරියන්නේත් නැහැ කියලා දැක්කා. Right? All the prokaryotes were where? In kingdom Protista. All the prokaryotes. Right? With these molecular methods, you will understand that prokaryotes can be further divided. So we have kingdoms. Now we are going up now. We are coming to the topmost level of the hierarchy, domains. So the domains were introduced by Carl Woos, 1977. Very, very recent. Very, very recent. Final one, right? Whittaker passe aave, okay? Carl Woos, okay? මේගොල්ලෝ හරියට vowels use කරනවා, right? WOS කියලා ලියන්න බෑ, right? Carl Woos, what did he do? 3 domain classification. Okay? එතකොට එයාම තමයි domain කියන එකත් introduce කරේ. What are the 3 domains of Carl Woos? Archaea, bacteria, and eukarya. Okay. Three kingdoms. Sorry, three domains. Sorry, three domains. Final paragraph. In this tree of life, the first major split in the history of life occurred when bacteria diverged from others. Eukarya and archaea are mostly related to each other than bacteria. Okay, highlight that sentence. Eukarya and archaea are related to each other than bacteria. We are going to talk a little in a lot of detail about this. දැනට මෙහෙම බලා දැනගන්න these archaea and bacteria are still what? They are still considered as prokaryotes. Right? ඒගොල්ලන්ට proper nucleus එකක් නැහැ. They are still prokaryotes. Carl Lewis introduced three domain ඔන්නෝකයි story එක. If we summarize මොනවද මේක දිහා බලලා what can you summarize? Aristotle started everything, classified organisms into plants and animals. Animals were classified according to locomotion, reproduction, red blood cells present or absent. Aristotle ge Golea Theophrastus classified plants according to habit and lifespan. Habit, trees, shrubs, herbs. Lifespan, annuals, biennials, perennials. Then came Carolus Linnaeus, father of modern taxonomy, right? Classified into two kingdoms, animals and plants. Plants classified, 6,000 plants classified. Flowering plants classification was based on stamen and styles. Introduced class, order, genus, species, and also introduced binomial nomenclature. Ernest Haeckel introduced kingdom Protista and also introduced the taxon phylum. Robert Whittaker introduced the five kingdom classification with Monera, fungi, Protista, animals, plants based on Whittaker, right? Carl Lewis introduced the three domains with the archaea, bacteria and eukarya. ඔක්කොම ටික හරිනේ. Okay. Tute එක ඉඩ නෑ නේද? Yeah. Last page. Full summary එක ලියාගන්න ටක් ගාලා. මේ වගේ තැන් තැන් වල යන්න එපා. පුළුවන් නම් ලස්සන පල්ලෙහාට flow chart එක වගේ ලියන්න. Right? Any questions? People, any questions? Board is clear, ne? I sent you a photo also. And in the tute, if you are done, පොඩි chart එකක් තියෙනවා නේද? Fill in the blank. It doesn't have to be what exactly I have written. Na? Make your own modifications. ඔයගලන්ට ලේසි විදියට, right? Everything is in the resource. We are just organizing information. Okay, done. Okay, in the tudes there's a chart you can fill in the blanks. Right. Complete the following based on history of classification. Scientist importance. Quickly fill in the blanks. Kamalina. First one kawuda? Scientist and the importance. Divided organisms into plants and animals. මේක දිහා බලලා පුළුවන් නේද? Aristotle. Right? Theophrastus. What is his importance? Student of Aristotle Killian, right? Classified plants according to habit and lifespan Killian. Classified plants according to habit and lifespan. Theophrastus. Third one. Introduce binomial nomenclature, species, genus, order, class, two kingdoms. කවුද මේවා කරේ? Yes. Carolus Linnaeus. Then Ernest Haeckel. මොනවද කරේ Ernest Haeckel? Introduce kingdom Protista. Also introduce the taxon phylum. ඔය තමයි Ernest Haeckel करे. Right? Robert introduce five kingdom of classification. කවුද ඒක කරේ? Robert H. Whittaker නේද? Five kingdoms. Robert H. Whittaker. Finally, Carl Woos. Three domain system. Carl Woos three domain system. Yes. Online people, any questions? Okay, I'll give you 2 minutes. Taggala complete karagan. Taggala complete kar. Any questions? Okay, right. Then page number 78, present system of classification and its basis. Present system is mainly based on rapid advancement of molecular biology and new information on the evolutionary relationships of organisms. Monada based on molecular biology and evolutionary relationships. What sort of a classification is it? Definitely natural, no? Natural, right? There are 5, let's say, criteria. What are the 5 criteria? Sequence basis of DNA of important genes, right? Only important genes, right? If you take human genome, ඔක්කොම genes කීයක් විතර තියෙනවද? 18,000 to 20,000 genes තියෙනවා, right? ඔය ඔක්කොම එතකොට බලන්න යන්නේ classify කරන්න. Important ones, right? Certain important proteins හදන්න ඕන කරන certain important genes we are going to take a look at when we are classifying, right? DNA of important genes, first one. Then sequence of basis of DNA of mitochondria and chloroplasts. So mitochondria and chloroplast have DNA, no? They have their own DNA, mitochondrial and chloroplast DNA. Base sequence of ribosomal RNA. rRNA sequence is also very important because it can be unique. Species against species, rRNA sequence can change. Okay. Sequence of amino acids in common proteins. Certain common proteins we can take a look at the primary structure, no? කොයි විදිහටද amino acids one after the other arrange වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. Molecular structure of cellular components. You know, basically නිකන් flagellum එකක් දිහා බැලුවාම you can classify, no? Prokaryotic, the eukaryotic, right? Just by looking at a cell wall you can say it's prokaryotic or eukaryotic. Fungal cell wall you can quickly identify chitinous. Bacterial cell wall quickly you can identify, right? So based on these sort of cellular components also you can quickly classify, right? So these are the 5 criteria. What are they? Sequence of DNA of important genes, DNA of mitochondria and chloroplast, ribosomal RNA, amino acids in common proteins, and molecular structure of cellular components. Okay, are used as important taxonomic criteria. So those are criteria. Then there's a very important few points next. Kingdom Protista is not a natural group. Highlight. It is an artificial group including organisms which have different evolutionary origins. So protists include, we are going to learn about this kingdom Protista. They have algae and protozoa. So actually algae, we think, were ancestors of modern plants. Protozoa are sort of a whole different group of organisms, right? Your Paramecium, Euglena, Aramung, they are also microorganisms, they are also eukaryotic. පොඩි අච්චාරුවක් වගේ අර still kingdom protista is sort of our අර නිකන් ඉතුරු වෙන කැලි ටික දාන්න තියෙන ඔක්කොම classify කරලා නිකන් අර ගරාජ් එකේ වාහනයක් හදලා ඉවරනහම වැඩිපුර කැලි ටික දාන්න තියෙන අර බින් එකක් තියෙන ඒ වගේ classify කරලා ඉවරලා මොකද කොහෙටවත් දාගන්න බැරුණාම protista එක, right? It's like that. Okay, it's not a natural glue, right? With further studies of evolution and maybe in the future we may be able to subdivide Protista or maybe revise this, right? But still, kingdom Protista is not natural. It contains organisms with different evolution origins, right? Then coming to viruses, they do not have cellular organization. Therefore, do not belong in any of the kingdoms. They are considered separate, right? Viruses are usually just a piece of, they are usually just a piece of DNA or RNA, right? මෙහෙම a strand of DNA or RNA surrounded by what we call as a protein capsid. මෙහෙම protein capsid එකක දාලා තියෙන entity එකක් තමයි virus එකක්. Right? What is the only living feature of viruses? Reproduction. That is also only exhibited when what? It is inside a living cell. Right? Environment, when, for example, if the COVID virus is on whatever surface, it's not reproducing. Right? It has to enter a host cell to reproduce. That is also, that is the only living feature. වෙන කිසිම දෙයක් නැහැ. There's no metabolism, whatever. What else? There's no මොනවද තවද? Order and organization, no මුකුත් නැහැ. Right? There's no other living feature except reproduction. That is also while inside a host cell. Viruses are separate entity. Why are we studying about them? Because they infect living cells, right? Because of their interaction with us. ඔය වගේ තව there are infectious proteins, right? The prions කියලා જાතියක් ඉන්නවා that can cause diseases. We also study about them because they interact with living things. That's why they come under biology, right? So highlight, viruses are also an artificial group. Okay, then tute, come to the tute, next page. There are few questions, starting with what is the main basis of present system of classification, ඔය ටික කරන්න බලන්න. Up to what are the important criteria used in modern systematics. Do those questions. Online people, this page here. What is the main basis of present system of classification? Kingdom Protista and viruses are not natural groups. Explain why. What is known as classification of organisms? Do this right up to here. I'll give you 5 minutes. Refer the resource book, then close it and write. Okay, බැලුවා පාඩම් කරා ලිව්වා. Short term memory එකට හරි දාගන්න දැන්, right? What are the criteria used in modern systematics? The things we just talked about, ne? Study a little bit and then close and write. And also, kingdom protista and viruses are not natural groups. We just talked about them. Ne? Okay, done. Online people, there was a power cut. Huh? Power came and power went and came back. Can you hear? Yeah, right. Can you hear me? Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think still running on generators, so small issue. Huh? Okay, right. Right. Shall we discuss the questions? Okay, ne? What's the top question? What is the main basis of present system of classification? What is the main basis? Yes. What is the main basis? Rapid advancement of molecular biology and new information in evolutionary relationships. Rapid advancement in molecular biology and new understanding. New information on evolutionary relations. Those are the two things based on. Right. Then what's the next question? Viruses and what else? Kingdom protista. Is it? Viruses are not natural groups. Explain why. Why are they not considered as natural groups? Because sorry, දෙක වෙන වෙනම explain කරන්න. Kingdom Protista contains organisms with different evolutionary origins. Kingdom Protista contains organisms with different evolutionary origins. That's why it's not a, it's an artificial group, right? It's an artificial group, right? Then viruses, why is it not? Do not have cellular organization, therefore do not belong to any of the kingdoms. No cellular organization, right? No cellular organization, therefore does not belong to any kingdom. That's why they are considered as artificial groups, viruses and kingdom protista. Okay. All right. What's the next question? What is known as classification? What is classification? What is the proper definition? Arrangement of organisms into groups on the basis of common characteristics is called classification. Arrangement of organisms into groups based on common characteristics. Then, what are the criteria? Sequence of DNA of important genes, sequence of DNA of mitochondria and chloroplast, sequence of ribosomal RNA, amino acid sequence of important proteins. What else? Molecular structure of some cellular components. Vertically modern, the criteria used in systematics. Okay. All right. Then, what's the next question? Yeah, what are the important criteria used in modern systematics? Right. Ethani you right. Okay. Next topic. Hierarchy of taxa. Page number, still page, same page. Page number 79. Hierarchy of taxa from domain to species. Okay. Definition: the taxonomic unit at any level or rank of the hierarchy is called a taxon. Each taxon has a name and a rank, right? Any level, right? A phylum, a certain name of a phylum, it's at the third level, no? It's at the third place in the hierarchy from the top, right? If we write based on molecular biology, not exactly. You have to say advancement of molecular biology. It's better if you can write with advancement of molecular biology and new information, but it's not wrong to say molecular biology and evolutionary relationships. This is about based on what Kinnigan, right? So, what's a taxon? A taxonomic unit, any level or rank. So, Panthera, there's an example, is at genus level. Genus, right? Family, genus, yes, genus level. Mammalia is a class, so it's above it, right? Mammalia is above it. So, each domain, so where do we start? We start at the domain, then domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. You have to remember this hierarchy, you have to remember. Okay? A kingdom is divided into phyla, phyla into class, class into order, so it goes down. And they can also be subdivided, right? So the last subdivision is subspecies. As they say, there can be subfamilies, right? And maybe two or more classes can be combined into one superclass that is coming under phylum, that but above class. So several classes we can put them together into a superclass. So that is sort of in between. Got it? Right? එහෙම classify කරන්නත් පුළුවන්. Right? So those are like middle people in the hierarchy. Right? These are the main levels. There can be in between small sub levels as well. Okay? From domain to species, the number of characteristics among the members in the taxa increases. And what does that mean? Very, very important. Nah? So, domain is the highest level, species is the lowest level. Neither. What is our domain? What is our domain? We are eukaryotes, right? If you take the domain eukarya, right, it contains fungi, plants, protists, and all the other animals, right? We are, as a species, we are here, Homo sapiens, right? What is going to happen is when you come down from domain to kingdom, what is our kingdom? Animalia, right? We are animals. Then phylum, we are phylum chordata with a backbone. Then from that class, we are mammalia, right? Mammals. Then order I can't remember, Homomagilla, right? We come to genus Homo and species is sapiens, Homo sapiens, right? Homo yape downward hierarchical again level. So what's going to happen when you are coming down from domain to species? The number of common characteristics is going to increase between members. At the domain level, the number of common characteristics actually very low, right? If you take fungi and protista, even though we consider at the same domain eukarya, මට ලොකු differences තියෙනවානේ fungus and animals, right? Can you understand? But when you come down to maybe mammals, a lot of similarities, no? Dental care තියෙනවා, milk දෙනවා, and what else? Hair follicles දාඩිය දානවා, and ඒ වගේ number of common characteristics is high here. So then we come to apes. Then apes in the genus. When we come to species itself, we are entirely exactly similar, right? So the number of common characteristics increases when we go from what? Domain to species. Or you can say from the top to bottom. Common characteristics increase. But the thing is, the number of, let's say, members increases this way. If we come to the domain level, the number of members is highest at the domain level, right? Because it includes all the species and all the genus, all the families, everyone at the domain level. No? So those two variations you have to know. Number of individuals increases from bottom to top, right? So number of individuals increase from when going from bottom to top. Okay, is there some space for us to write this down? Yeah, අර යට තියෙන්නේ write short notes on the following. ඔතන short note එක කොහොමද ලියන්න බෑ. Right? Write down this hierarchy of taxa from domain to species and do this comparison when going from top to bottom, bottom to top. මොකද වෙන්නේ කියලා? When you're writing this, try to memorize domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order. Or chemistry වල මතක තියෙන 1s2 2s2 2p6 3s2 කියලා තියාගන්නවා right electronic configurations ලියන්න ඒ මතක තියාගන්න නැද්ද 2s2 2p6 3s2 3p6 4s2 3d10 වෙනවානේ 3d10 then ඊට පස්සේ 4s2 3d10 4 4p6 no yeah මොකක්ද පේපර් එකට ගිහලා අර මෙහෙම මා අඳන් දින්න බෑනේ right ඒක දිගටම මතක තියාගන්න this is some general knowledge no ලොකු එකේ ඉඳලා පොඩි එකට යනකොට specificity වැඩි වෙනවානේ shared characteristics ගන්න වැඩි වෙනවා right when you go to the top number of individuals increase because everyone is included right online people wrote this down ඉස්සෙල්ලම ලියුවද කලින් බෝඩ් එකේ තියෙද්දි ලියුවද right then we have to pay a little bit of special attention to this particular taxon no? The taxon species right what exactly do we consider as a species and what's so important about it, right because there are subspecies as well but particularly the species we consider as the definitive lowest level right an individual the lowest specific taxon that we can give to an organism තොර ඔයා එක species එක විතරයි organism cannot be of two species right so that's very important your species is something very unique to yourself right you can be part of a genus you can be part of a family but your species is something unique to certain individual right so and it's sort of very difficult to exactly pinpoint this is the criteria for a species so that's why we have several definitions for species right but there's a common one right page number 79 species is a group of organisms who share similar characteristics and has the ability to interbreed and produce viable and fertile offspring this is the most widely accepted one right what are the keywords similar characteristics අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම similar characteristics තියෙනවා anyone any ඕනලා ඔක්කෙනෙක්ට තේරෙනවානේ species have to have similar characteristics right so that highlight but the more specific thing is they have the ability to interbreed highlight able to interbreed ඒක විතරක් මදියා different species can interbreed එතනින් විතරක් if you stop the definition then completely wrong right next is the most important part produce viable and fertile offspring viable and fertile offspring what do you mean by viable the offspring must be living when the offspring is born it should be living offspring viable right the so two animals of two different species can interbreed anatomically පොඩ්ඩක් set වෙනවා නම් they can interbreed right right depending on the body size right a dog and a blue whale cannot interbreed right because even though they are same they are mammals right so but what are the possible species that can interbreed and produce living offspring and produce living offspring. අද අපි genetics වල කතා කරන 2026 වල. Lion and tiger, have you heard? Lion and tiger, මොකද එයාට කියන්නේ? Liger කියලා කෙනෙක්ව දන්නවද? Lion and tiger කියලා හැදුවා. If a lion, I think a female lion, oh no, female tiger and a male lion interbreeds, you get an animal that is called a liger. මෙන්න මේ වගේ. Right? මෙතනින් right අර නිකන් කොටියගේ වගේ මේවත් තියෙනවා. lion වගේ පොඩි main එකකුත් තියෙනවා. Right? Hold on. Yeah, පොඩක් අර මන්ද බුද්ධිකයි වගේ, right? Online people, can you see? No? Yeah, he has like stripes like a tiger and also like පොඩක් දෙපැත්තෙන් hair like a tiger, මේ lion. Called a liger, right? Two different species, no? Right? Lions and tigers are two different species, but they can interbreed. Again, එතනින් definition එක වැරදි නේ, එතෙන්ට නිකන් ලියුවා. And also produce viable offspring, no? Living offspring හදන්නත් පුළුවන්. Then what's the next part? Fertile offspring. මේ හදන ligers ලා, they are not fertile. They cannot produce. If it's a male liger, they cannot properly produce sperms. If it's a female liger, they cannot properly produce eggs. Liger ට බබාලා හදන්න බෑ. Right? The liger is infertile. එතකොට zebra and horse cross කළා නමක් කියන්නේ zoos. එහෙම කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. zoos කියලා කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. zoos කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. A zebra and donkey. Zonky. එහෙම ඉන්නවා එක්කෙනෙක්. Zonky, right? Right? Genetics resource book එක ගලන් බලන්න interspecific breeding, okay? What else? ඊට වඩා නිකන් common එක්කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. horse and a donkey. Female horse and a male donkey. එතකොට එහෙමත් වෙනස් වෙනවා. parents ලා මාරු වෙනකොට. මේ mule ලා mule කොටලුවා කියලා කියන්නේ. Right? කොටලුව හරියට හදනවා. Because why? They are strong as a horse and also are easy to maintain as a donkey වගේ එහෙම එකක් තියෙනවා. Right? අර කොටලුවන්ගෙන් බර අදිනවා කියලා එකක් තියෙනවානේ. mule. ඔව් වෙන කට්ටිය Google කරලා කියනවා. Right? mule ඉන්නවා. Lion and tiger, liger. ඒක දෙපැත්ත මාරුනහම තව නමක් තියෙනවනේ. There's another name for the when you cross male and female. Liger ඔය වගේ තව ටිකක් තියෙනවා. Right? You search and see. Yeah, donkey, zebra and horse, those. Donkey. Right. Okay. හරිද? None of these are හරිද? Even though they are viable offspring, they are not fertile. That's the problem with interspecific breed. අපි හරියටම when we are defining a species, they should have common characters, they should be able to interbreed and produce living, and the offspring themselves should be fertile. That's the proper definition. Na? Highlight it. Grizzly bear, polar bear, grizzly කෙනෙක් කෙනෙක්. Right. Then other definitions, okay? There's a morphological species, there's an ecological species, and there's a phylogenetic species. Other three more definitions they are there, but if they ask you what is the definition of a species, මොකද ලියන්නේ? උඩ තියෙන එක. වෙනම they will specifically ask what is the ecological definition. Right? Morphological species, use of morphological criteria to distinguish species such as body shape and other structural features. Right? කොටි දෙන්නෙක්ව we can, by looking from the outside, we can roughly say, if you see a Siberian tiger or a Bengal tiger, or Siberian එක ලොකුයි ඊළඟට එහෙම කියලා, you can sort of by the morphology you can classify, no? This must be a separate species. Then ecological species, define species in terms of its ecological niche. Highlight. Ecological niche මොකද මේ නිෂ් කියන්නේ? නිෂේ හරි මොකක්ද? නිෂේ. Oh, නිෂේ, නිෂා. Okay. What is a niche? Particularly ecological niche එකක් කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? A role, the role a particular organism plays in the environment, right? Again, if you think the whole ecosystem is like a drama, ඒක ඉන්නවනේ main characters ඉන්නවා, ඊළඟට sub characters ඉන්නවා, ඒ වගේ. Right? Every animal in an ecosystem plays a role. If you take a pond, ඒකේ ඉන්න aquatic plants, they are the primary producers. Then there's fish who's eating the plants. They are primary consumers. ඒ මාළු කන්න වෙන වෙන අය. Right? So all of them have a role, no? Right? So based on that role or the niche, you can classify species. You can define species. Ecological niche කියන එක resource book එක උඩින් ලියා ගන්න with a pencil if you like. In the resource book write down. The role a particular organism plays, the role, Charite, the role a particular organism plays the role a particular organism plays in a given ecosystem. The role a particular organism plays in a given ecosystem. The role that a particular organism plays in a given ecosystem. Ne? Okay. Final one. Phylogenetic species. Phylogenetic species defines a species as the smallest group of individuals that share a common ancestor. Common ancestor කෙනෙක් ඉන්න smallest, right? If you take the domain level, we started with the common ancestor. Protocell එකෙන් is the common ancestor. This is the smallest group that will share that common ancestor, right? Phylogeny, you know, right? How evolution came, I mean, how evolution progressed, phylogeny. So, from the common ancestor, the smallest one is the species. Subspecies කියලා කියන්නේ they are the same species but depending on their habitat and if they are living in different regions. එක එක රටවල් වල ඉන්නවා නම් වගේ there can be certain differences, right? There are regional differences. So we are all humans but we have subspecies. ඒකට අපි කියන්නේ races කියලා, right? Homo sapiens have African race, Asians, ඒ වගේ we have a lot of genetic differences as well, right? We are the same species but a lot of differences, right? Binomial nomenclature next week, right? From binomial nomenclature, we have to write a short note as well. That's for next week. Okay. So, what was the homework? Ada dunne? Short note. Huh? Sorry? Theories of evolution, right? We'll mark that essay next week and also discuss a little bit about the papers, right? So, if you have gotten, for the online people as well, if your mark seems low, the top score is also 79, 79, right? The highest score is also 79. And that's the only score above 75, right? So I didn't intentionally make the paper difficult, right? But I tried to be tough a little bit with the mark, right? So do not be discouraged. Probably your first term test marks will be much higher than this. School paper එකට මීට වඩා ලකුණු හම්බෙයි. Both because they are not going to be that tough, and the other thing is the paper is going to be easy for you after this sort of studying. දැකපාරක් පාඩම් කරලා තියෙන මේක, right? So the school term test paper is going to be really unchallenging. So ඒකෙන් overconfident වෙන්න එපා. Right? Just know it's අර 6න් එකයි. 6න් එකයි තව 5ක් යන්න තියෙනවා term test. Right? And ඔය 6න් එකක් නෙමෙයි නිකන් ඔක නිකන් consider ගන්න බෑ. Proper term test එන්න ගන්නේ grade 13 first term test, second term test ඒවා තමයි proper term test. Right? So anyway, step by step, okay? If you are facing the first term test නෑනේ ඔක්කොම postpone නේ. Term test all postpone, right? So anyway, don't be discouraged. Go home and see the paper and marking scheme එක පොඩ්ඩක් compare ගන්න and just forget about it. Right? Just check what your mistakes are and ඔක visit කළා. Right? It's just a class paper, right? Paper class paper එකකුත් නෙවෙයි. But it's just for your practice. Okay? Right. Okay. You can go. Hello, people. Thank you for joining. This one, right? Okay.